Evening, folks. This is just a quick recording to show you how to start Mafia the Definitive Edition in the quickest possible way without any trouble from 2K Launcher, specifically from Steam. So the quickest way to start the game is to go to its properties, local files, browse, and launch the Mafia the Definitive Edition from .exe from here with the usage of run as administrator. That should bypass the 2K launcher and other troubles you might encounter when launching the game. So hopefully that will help you if you're planning on playing the game or if you're having troubles with it, at least to some degree. And now then, let's get back to the review. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bedomy and this is Mafia the Definitive Edition. A remaster and a reimagining of the Illusion Softworks' magnum opus by Hunger 13, which is a subsidiary of 2K Games, which is also the studio that developed the rather controversial Mafia 3, which was a downright low of the franchise as a whole. But we'll get to that when we get to Mafia 3. Anyway, this is Mafia 1, the game that started it all. It is a third-person action adventure game which is heavily story-driven, even though you have an open world where you can roam around and explore the sights and the vehicles and weapons at your own leisure. But the main focus of the game is the story campaign. You will have access to the open world, but you won't have enough time to actually explore it on your own. You will follow the linear. It is a linear plot, but you'll be encouraged to finish the story more than to run around and kill random NPCs or cause mayhem. Honestly, there is not much to do in the free roaming section of the game. You can just run around the area and pick up collectibles, and that's about it. I did play free roam a couple of times, but I never encountered any challenges or anything that encouraged me to actually drive around or run around and do stuff. I'm not rewarded as much as I am in GT. Well, to be fair, I'm not a big fan of open world games in general. This is mostly because most of these open world games, once you enter a story mode, will force you to follow a strict script in order to finish the mission you're presented with. They never utilize the elements of the open world in order to make the mission entertaining. It's very linear and strictly encourages you to follow a specific path. We will be punished, and I lost my ability to speak. You will be punished if you divert from the specified lane or a track you're supposed to follow. So I'm grateful that the game has its that the game has the story mode and free roam modes separated. That's a very nice touch that I really wish more open world games like Saints Row or GTA would follow. The open worlds are nice and everything, but if you're just gonna give me a big world without anything to do, just give me the ability to finish the story quickly and be done with it. Granted, I do love the story mode. I do love story modes in these types of games because they do have a lot of good writing to them. The characters are usually memorable, and missions tend to be some of the funnier content of the game itself. But first and foremost, we'll get to the gameplay itself once we take a look at the options menu. So for the controls, you can adjust your controller sensitivity as well as vibration and aim assist for your gamepad controller, as well as your mouse sensitivity, as well as your key bindings when you want to rebind them. Let's take a look at the key bindings first, and then we'll discuss several problems I have with the control schemes of the game itself. But first things first, the positive thing is every action has a separate key attached to it, which is always nice in my book. And there's one very interesting feature that I will give the studio credit for. If you try to bind the already bound key to a different action, the game will warn you that the key is already taken and you should consider a different input for the specific action you want to bound to the specific key. This is a nice touch. So that's it for the key remindings. But now let's go to the problems I have with the game. As you can see, a lot of attention has been given to the gamepad controller. Granted, the mouse and keyboard are two separate entities, and they don't require much in terms of options. But mouse sensitivity is somewhat ridiculous. Just look at this. It's either way too fast and too floaty, and I've been trying to figure this out for a while now. Just look at this. I lowered this to the minimum, and this mouse is still lagging behind my actual. The cursor is lagging behind my actual mouse movement, even at maximum speeds. Let's just give me a second. I'll try to lift it up to a 6. I'm at the edge of my table right now, and the mouse is here at the moment. So I'm not too happy with the port of this current port of on the PC. It's rather infuriating, if I do say so myself. It doesn't work well. And game, you can always pause the game and then readjust it once you start playing. But the game really. A game of this caliber, which has such a good story and gameplay behind it, especially because this game was primarily made for the PC and then ported to the consoles later on in its infancy. Well, not in infancy, but the first Mafia was a PC exclusive, and once it gained popularity, then the sequel and the console port came into existence afterwards. And the Mafia series became a strong presence on the consoles as well. But I'm kind of infuriated by the fact that the PC port doesn't have a proper mouse sense. That the mouse and keyboard control is laggy like this. Let's put it like that. It's really makes things harder than they need to be. So for difficulty, you can choose to play on the classical difficulty, which is challenging. I'm not gonna lie. The police responses and driving mode are locked into simulations, which is rather realistic. Granted, I did try to put them on regular just to see what's the difference, but didn't see much of a difference on regular and simulation. So yeah, if you notice this, let me know in the comments. Transmission will let you adjust your car speed once you're driving the vehicle. You can do this manually or just let the automatic do it for you. I would recommend that you play this at least after you finish the racing chapter, that you play this on manual for the race on manual transmissions. But when you enter the racing part of the story, switch to automatic, it will make your life a lot easier. That's the... I'm just gonna repeat that. Please play on automatic if you're racing in the game. It's difficult to control the vehicle on manual and yeah, it's difficult to control the vehicle with when you have to pay attention to which speed you're in and you have to turn corners. Subtitles on or off, on foot camera's angle on when you're on foot and in vehicle can be adjusted to your own personal preference, as well as tutorials, as well as some UI well, accessories such as visibility, objective indicator, and GPS. Display lets you adjust the resolution in full screen as well as your field of view and the graphical qualities. I wouldn't recommend the noir mode. This will just turn everything black and white. Well, that is more or less just a gimmick. It's pretty unnecessary in my opinion. The game is beautiful to look at, and removing colors from it is just a crime to it. It's just a disservice to the developers and the developers and the visual artists that worked on the game itself. Okay, let's see. What else? Audio master volume will mute everything, and this will disregard all the other volume settings. But you can adjust every setting to your own personal preference when it comes to music dialogue, and special effects volume. And I do apologize for sounding like this, guys, but I had a bit of an allergic reaction last week, and my throat just swelled up. So I'm still in a bit of a recovery phase at the moment. So talking in is a bit. I won't say completely problematic, but I still have some trouble breathing on occasion. Anyway, I nearly forgot. This is just a warning for everyone who has a gamepad, and a wireless gamepad in particular, attached to their PC. If you're playing this with a gamepad plugged into your PC, the game will automatically assume that you're going to play this with a gamepad, and most of your controls, most of your keyboard and mouse inputs will be offset by the gamepad itself. Either the game will not recognize them on the spot, or it will outright ignore your inputs. So make sure that your gamepad is plugged out if you're planning on playing this with a mouse and keyboard. Now then, let's go to the gameplay itself. We'll explore the free roaming section of the game so that I don't spoil the story for anyone. And while we wait, I'm just gonna tell you a couple of things to be on the lookout for when you start playing the game. First and foremost, make sure that the in-game's Mafia.exe, Mafia the Definitive Edition, the exe is put on to exceptions in your antivirus software, because it will conflict with the game for some weird reason. I think I already mentioned this, but the game requires an online connection in order to run properly, even though it's a single player experience for some weird reason. I think this is mainly because of the 2K launcher or account. It's published by 2K, so the publisher is forcefully adding its own launcher to the game itself, which is rather annoying. Let's see. And before you try to correct me and say that there might be something wrong with my PC if the game is crashing, no, I've honestly had trouble. Most of my crashes happened at the same time when I lost connection to the internet. So by that logic, I am fairly certain that the game requires an internet online connection in order to run properly. And also, if you want to bypass this, bypass the 2K launcher somewhat, you can go into the game files and just run the Mafia Definitive Edition.exe as an administrator. Just go to the I'll tell you what, I'll give you a quick tutorial at the end of the video, or at the start of the video. We'll see when I actually start editing this, when it's better to put this. For now, I'm just gonna pick a vehicle we can use in order before we exit the area. And as you probably saw, that the gear change, the speedometer next to the speed gauge next to our car has a fairly unique glitch to it that sometimes tells you that you're in third gear, and when you try to reverse into the second, it will put you in reverse. So yeah, there is a bit of a visual glitch on occasion, some visual glitches on occasion. And I'm fairly certain that you saw a few of them when we exited the armory, when our shadow was showing up as an after image on the door. The lighting effects tend to stick, reflections and lights stick to you even though you're in the shadow for some reason. But there are some interesting things about Mafia's gameplay that I really have to recommend to anyone who likes open world games. First and foremost, the police of the game is the AI of the police, and their response is the way they respond to the game is fairly unique. As you can see, I'm currently just doing. I just did a minor offense.
Go get him, boys.
Oh, thank you, sir.
I just committed a minor offense, and the police officers the police officers will just stop me on the first star in order to issue me a ticket.
He's too kind.
And punish me. Well, I'm only gonna get punished by paying for the said ticket. So as you can see, the game has some unique elements to it. For one, you can limit your speed, the vehicle speed, to obey traffic laws. That's a nice touch. You can manually switch the speed of your bloody hell! Use the indicator, you idiot! You can readjust your speed manually, or as I said, you can let the PC let the in-game system do it for you.
You won't believe what you read.
And just drive around the area and shoot your pistol or anything, or your sidearm while you're driving around. You can also, apart from driving around, you can exit the vehicle in order to fire a gun at enemy NPCs or targets, depending on what you're aiming for.
Get some men over here!
Stolen car on Central Island. Please
For now, I'm just gonna. Oops.
Yeah, expensive.
I'm just gonna take the cab and get out of here.
Out of the car!
So the interesting thing about the game is, as you can see, is the officer's AI. They will issue a ticket if you're misbehaving, but you can always just stop, pay the ticket, and be done with it, or you can just try to drive off and get out of any situation by driving properly. Well, not properly, but driving fast and getting out of a tight spot. That's not the only thing you can do. You can also,
No funny stuff.
if you're stressed about everything, you can actually,
Permission to shoot.
well,
Calling all cars.
you
We
can
need
get
to
arrested.
arrest immediately.
I got him.
He's in a car. Get him before this goes any further.
You can get killed by the officers pursuing you, or you can lure the officers chasing you to a remote location and then shoot them, which will reset the wanted system. That's a unique feature about the game. If you were spotted by an officer or a civilian, if you get rid of him fast enough, the wanted level will be reset, and there will be no one will report a crime, and there will be no crime to report. That's an interesting part about the game, and unfortunately, the open world section of the game is pretty boring, in my opinion, because there isn't much to do. It's a big world, I'm not gonna lie, but there aren't many things you can do in it. You can drive around, shoot a few NPCs, and just repeat your favorite GTA stunts in the late 30s, 1930s, or you can just follow the story mode and entertain yourself with well-written characters and high octane and compelling narrative. Honestly, as I said, I'm glad that the game has its story mode and open world section separated. Because if this was a all-in-one type of a thing, I'd probably give this game a hard pass. It's not as entertaining as you might think. You can find some collectible cards or comics, but you cannot read them. Cards and comics, that's stuff you cannot read that stuff, but you can read some notes you find in the area. Oof. I mean, look, I've been playing the story mode primarily, so I didn't explore the open world as much as I probably should have, but to be honest, I'm not that keen on playing the open world segment in general. I'd rather have a compact and well-written linear story with likable characters and reasonable goals I can follow and do, rather than an open world where I drive 90% of the time and get shot at the rest, and the remaining 10% is just spent looking for cover while I'm being shot at. When the story mode itself is... Whoa, oops. The story mode in itself is better. You always have an interesting mission to follow. You always have an interesting character to talk to, and overall, you have more. It's more fun than an open world without many things, without anything to do. Okay, then note did say Western Point, so let's just follow it, see where it leads us. But honestly, I think I'm gonna just drive a bit more, but afterwards I'm gonna switch to the story mode, and it's gonna be a spoiler. I'm not gonna lie, but at the very least, you'll get something decent for the video. Well, the radio is nice. There aren't many. Yeah, there aren't too many stations you can listen to, and most of them are just playing jazz. Granted, I'm a fan of jazz music, so it's not a big deal for me, but if you don't like the music, you can always turn it off by turning off the radio. As you can see, the game doesn't have much in terms of events going on in the open world. You can always challenge yourself to drive a motorcycle over a platform or something, or a speed race against the NPCs who are not actively racing you. Granted, most of them will take a turn when you don't need them at an opportune time, so that adds to a challenge, I think. That just recognizing when the NPC will take a turn and try to avoid him at the last possible second. That's usually fun. So we're on the west point of the map, or city, but yeah. Tell you what, I'm just gonna load into the story mode and move on from there. It's more interesting. But yeah, this is the open world section of the game. It's the most basic of basic open worlds. Drive around, shoot things up, and avoid the officers chasing you. But the story mode, this is where things get interesting.
Once we're done with the small crates, we start cracking open.
At one point, you have to sneak by the federal agents in order to.
Must have been through 100 maxes already. Fuck me, fucking tired of this.
In order to find specific evidence your boss has sent you to find. And the next moment you're sniping a senator that's going against your family, who is actively hunting down every mob family in the city. Or you can just you just go on a protection, or you just go out to collect protection money, and then you have to fend off against an army of heavily armed goons from a rival gang or something. This is what I like about Mafia. The story mode is well written, and every level presents you with a different challenge. For one, I have this challenge requires me that I. Monks. This particular challenge requires that I sneak around and try to sneak into a hangar bay where I can grab the evidence that I need. without raising the alarm. But then there's another mission where I have to get rid of witnesses or something. You never have a dull moment in the game, that's what I'm trying to say. As you can see, I'm trying to sneak by the guards in order to get to the hangar over there. And honestly, this is what I like. This is why I think that most open worlds and story modes need to have a separation from the story mode and the open world. Because one, if someone's watching you play an open world adventure where you just run around and cause chaos, people will get bored. But if the mission requires that you follow up, okay, let's try this again. Open worlds tend to most open world games that tell you to play at your own way in the story mode will force you to follow a very strict linear path, while this game will not lie to you about it. It will put you on a linear path, and you will have to follow it at your own leisure. And also, just a quick note: make sure that the game won't recognize your default keyboard setting. It will go for the American one automatically. So your best bet is to careful. It's in your best interest to memorize the fact that your Z and Y key will be different. So let's just get rid of the unconscious bodies here and sneak you off into the required building. Or actually, do what? I don't want to spoil the story to anyone who is interested in buying this game, so I'm just gonna exit the level here. And I do apologize. I would like to show you other chapters of the story, but unfortunately the game won't let you choose a different chapter to start off. If you're interested in replaying a certain chapter, you'll have to, if you go to the story mode, the story, it will start a new game for you automatically, and then the whole progress will get reset, so that tends to be a problem. And there are some visual glitches that happen on occasion, as you probably saw at certain points. But the cinematics, the audio presentation, and the character models are all nicely modeled. The weight of the vehicles as they move around, the realism of the vehicles and weaponry is really well done. And the small effects such as the smoke or lighting effects are really movie level great, in my opinion. There are some small collectible cars you can find in every level of the story. And as you collect them, they will unlock new vehicles for your browsing pleasure, and that's about it. So that's Mafia the Definitive Edition. Is it a good game? Yes. Open world, no, but the story-driven the story part of it is really something I am glad that I sunk my teeth into, and I will try to finish this as soon as possible. And I honestly can't wait to see the Mafia 2 remake or remaster. Anyway, yeah. Thank you guys for watching Thank you for watching. First and foremost, my name has been Bedomy, and I'll probably add that how to start a game without the 2K launcher after this. After I close this. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. And see you next time. Goodbye.